back again. We got 2 races to finish up here, all the way in the red. I actually did a really good job doing some vinyls on this car. Probably seen it before. I'm sure everybody has. It's Tim Richmond, old NASCAR driver. Drove back in the 80s. Ended up dying. They said, I think they said he died of pneumonia. Oh, look at that. Screen recording saved. I guess I'm just exposing the business here. You know full well I am recording this one. I did not expect that car to not stop like that. I'm recording this video like immediately after another one that I've done, which is true, I am. But yeah, this was Tim Richmond. He, great driver while he was driving. He's one of those guys, him and Davey Allison, I think had them two not been killed, it would have been a different landscape in NASCAR from about 1985 to probably 2000, because they were right there in the same generation, maybe a little bit younger than Dale Earnhardt. So I think that would have been a much different landscape as far as NASCAR goes. And I'm not trying to take anything away from Earnhardt, a big Earnhardt fan, but I think those were 2 drivers that could have gave him a big shot had they hung around. And obviously, Earnhardt beat Richmond head to head. I think that was 86 when they were both, right there in the championship picture. And so, I'm not trying to say that Tim Richmond was just beating him up all the time, even when they were running together, but I think Richmond would have won a lot of races, because he did win a lot of races when he was around. That's a true statement. I think he would have won a lot more. I think Davey Allison would have won a lot more. And you just kind of got to wonder how things would have turned out. Both of those are kind of sad stories for different reasons. I got a few minutes here. Tim Richmond, I think, officially died of pneumonia. That's what they kind of said, and I think that's what they released. But sad thing is, he was one of the first high-profile sports figures to die of AIDS. And that's a weird thing. You hardly ever even hear about that anymore. And I don't know if it just doesn't happen or if they've just stopped reporting on it. But I know for a long time, it was a big deal when people were getting it. Back in the 90s and stuff, when we first started hearing about it. Because I remember Magic Johnson had it. What was that reality TV series? The Real World, MTV Real World. There was a guy in there, I think it was the second season of that. He had it and he ended up dying, a year or so later. And you've heard about that. And obviously medicine has improved. And we could get into a long conversation about some of these treatments that cost just millions of dollars, literally millions of dollars, to save people's lives. And it's just kind of ridiculous. Not that we're saving lives, but it's ridiculous how much things cost. Anyway, that's Tim Richmond. And then obviously the other one was Davey Allison. He died in, I think it was 1993. Oh yeah, I'll get another ad popping up here. I'll just close it out. Davey would have died in 93. And he actually died in a helicopter crash. He was piloting a helicopter, and he had some people in there who, were good pilots and this, that, and the other. And I think somehow he just lost control and ended up crashing the helicopter and didn't make it. And I want to say that's how Alan Kulwicki was killed later in that same year too. I think he died in a helicopter crash too. And that was another one of them things that was real sad because he was defending NASCAR champion at the time. He ended up winning. He won the championship in 1992, and he ended up finishing second in the last race of the year. And that's a race that has had some documentary films made about it, and some people say it's the greatest NASCAR race that was ever driven. I might not disagree with them. I don't know if it's the best. It's definitely one of them. I think you had 6 drivers that were eligible to win the championship, which is the first time that's ever happened. Usually, at that point in time, you would get to the last race of the season and you'd be lucky if there were still 2. That year they had 6, and it would have took some real crazy stuff to happen for whoever was in 6th to win, but you ended up having that. And then the battle that was going on at the front between Bill Elliott and Alan Kulwicki, and obviously Davey Allison, I mentioned him earlier, he was in it. Some other people were in it, and Jeff Gordon's first race was that day, and Richard Petty's last race was that day, and it was just all kinds of stuff going on, and it was an awesome race. Just stuff that can't happen anymore. Because anymore we don't even hardly know when people are retiring, and I don't think the only person nowadays who I think could come close to that would be Jimmy Johnson, and I don't think he's going to have the reaction that Richard Petty did when he retired. Maybe he does, but I don't think so. Because I think anymore, people don't hang around quite as long as Richard Petty did. I don't remember exactly how old he was when he retired, but he was, not trying to be terribly insensitive, but he stayed around far beyond when he was competitive. Of course, a lot of people do that. And I think that's one really cool thing about somebody like Tony Stewart, in that, he knew when he was leaving, and he pretty much, I don't want to say he left on top, but, he left before he turned into, just a shell. I'm actually kind of surprised Tony hadn't tried to do like endurance racing, because I know you end up seeing a lot of drivers retire from solo sports, like Fernando Alonso. He retired from Formula One, and now he's ended up going on to win the 2 big 24-hour races. He won 24 hours at Daytona this year, and that was an incredible drive. He did it in the rain and stuff. Had a great run in the rain, just because you got to have talent, and everybody else was driving off the road, and he was just kind of plugging along. Oh, hey, that's the end of this series. That gets us another 40 gold. yeah, sure, I'll put the car in for service. Look at that. I got to get the old gold reserves back up. And they love whatever empires and quests or whatever it is. Obviously, this series just opened. Gosh, that is a weird looking car. Yeah, whatever. I'll do one race. I'll do this one race in this series. I put a vinyl on the car to get it red, if you're curious. I don't even remember what color it was. Hopefully this car is relatively cheap. I'll look when I come back out. But it only had 1 hour. The first tier upgrades were only 1 hour, so usually that ends up being relatively cheap. I'm debating if I want to try to get back to 100% completion. I've talked about doing it. I don't know. Last time I looked, I had nearly 1,000 races that I need to run, and a lot of those are in the exclusive series, which is just going to be astronomically expensive. And I just don't know if I want to do it. This is actually not that bad of a car. It's kind of fun, actually. I'm going to slow this one down. But yeah, I got so much that I need to do if I want to try to get to 100%. And it's all in the exclusive series, and it's just it would just cost so much. I don't even want to think about how much it would cost to try to finish it. Probably 5,000 gold, I would think. It would just be something huge. Okay. Well, that's the first race for this car. That's actually a fun little car. See how much the... Oh, I didn't look for the upgrades. Let's see. Which are... Oh, that's actually really nice. Huh. That's cool. It's actually not that expensive. I actually be able to get out of this one pretty cheap. Probably have to come close to fully upgrading the car, though, to finish out the series that it's in. But hey, we'll get to that when we get there. Appreciate everybody watching. Y'all have a good one.